Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to Famous People with Linda. Today, I have a story for you about Harriet Tubman. Now, when I was in elementary school, I remember reading a book about Harriet Tubman, and I thought this woman was so brave, so courageous, and she did things I never could have dreamed of doing myself. Harriet wasn't born Harriet Tubman. She was born Minty Ross. She was born in Maryland in 1822, and she was born into slavery. Now, a slave is a person that's owned by another person and forced to work for that person from dusk to daylight and daylight to dusk. In other words, all day into the night. Slavery is no longer legal in America, but in Minty's time it was. So let's see what's going on with Minty this morning. Minty was a little girl who was born into slavery in Maryland in the United States. She was owned by a white master and forced to work for them from dawn to dusk. At night, while her family slept, she wished to be free. See, there's her family. And there is Harriet off to the side, dreaming. But freedom was a faraway dream for Minty and many other African Americans living in the South. Slave owners were allowed to sell people as if they were property. And one day, Minty's owners sold 3 of her sisters. Minty and her parents wondered if they would ever see them again. See, there's Minty and her mom and dad, and there are the 3 sisters going off in a cart. Now, that must have been really sad for them. Can you imagine that happening if you have brothers or sisters, if somebody just came, took them away, and you never saw them again or didn't think you would? Pretty sad, huh? Every other day, Minty was beaten by her masters, but she was always ready to stand up for herself and others. So not only did she have to work for these people all day long, but every other day they beat her. Can you imagine that? One morning, while protecting a slave who was trying to escape his overseer, she was hit on the head. Now, the overseer, he's like a supervisor or manager today. And see, there's the slave that's trying to escape, and there's poor little Minty who got bopped on the head. For Minty, that blow to the head was a sign that marked her destiny. She was now more determined than ever to take her people to the northern states where slavery no longer existed. There's her dream. Look at that. And she sees herself taking all these people north. So one night, she said goodbye to her family and started a long journey north to Philadelphia. Hey, that's in Pennsylvania, isn't it? She was guided by the pole star, which imagines the North Star. Minty changed her name to Harriet so she couldn't be traced. So this is when Minty Ross became Harriet Tubman. And see, there's her house in the distance that she's leaving. I see Mom and Dad there in the doorway, and there's the North Star guiding her. When Harriet finally reached Philadelphia, she joined the Underground Railroad. Now, maybe this is something you haven't heard about yet in history in school, but you will. The Underground Railroad was a secret network of safe houses and people who were against slavery. And they helped enslaved men and women reach safety in the northern states and in Canada. And there's Minty helping some folks find a safe place so that they could hide. Thanks to them, Harriet soon traveled to the South again. She went back for her brothers and sisters and as many slaves as needed her help. Now, see, that's where that bravery comes in, and that's part of her dream. I don't know if I'd want to go back to where they enslaved me and they beat me, but Harriet took that risk. For 11 years, Harriet repeated the same trip again and again and again, guiding hundreds of people to the safety of the northern states. She called them her passengers, and she never lost a single one. There's some of her passengers there, and I'll tell you that Mama looks happy to be going north to freedom, doesn't she? After years of problems between the North and the South, a civil war broke out. Harriet signed up to help as a cook, but she soon became a nurse and even a spy. Wow, huh? And there she is nursing a sick soldier. Okay. On a mission to rescue 700 slaves, Harriet led 3 steamboats along rivers full of explosives. She became a hero, and everybody called her Moses after the Bible story. Okay, that must have been pretty dangerous, thinking an explosive could just, and they put them out along the shoreline, and ships coming in then would be destroyed. But Harriet was able to guide them along those rivers. Eventually, the war came to an end, and there was a great celebration. Slavery was finally over, and millions of people were free for the first time in their lives. And they are happy, aren't they? They are smiling and giving each other a high five. Imagine that was a real happy day. But Harriet's work was not finished. Unequal rules for African Americans carried on long after slavery was over. She took to the stage to demand her rights. That's something I'd forgotten about Harriet, that she did speak up for people's rights and all. Again, very, very brave of her to do that back in those times. Because little Harriet knew that if you have to use all of your strength to stand up for yourself, so that you can stand up for others too. And there she is. Hey, on a $20 bill, huh? So she was a pretty brave woman, I think, Harriet, and she did a lot of good things for the country, for the people and all that. So what I want you to do once again, I'm going to invite you to make some comments. Let me know what you think about Harriet and what she did. Do you think you'd have been brave enough to do that? I don't know if I would have been, but I just admire the woman for what she did. And tell us your dreams again. We want to hear from you. Again, we miss you. Can't wait to see you again. Goodbye, and I'll see you next week.